Hi, this is Tim and Doyle,
Welcome to Midwest Hunting and Outdoors by Two Dumbasses,
a podcast about the outdoors, hunting,
and being a steward of the land. Welcome everyone to the bonus podcast of Midwest Hunting and Outdoors by Two Dumbasses. Tim, we're in the Tim household, and thank you for hosting today.
Yeah, appreciate it.
You have a beautiful place, and we took some pictures of some of your mounts and the place. We'll show them on the podcast, and it looks great.
That's awesome.
But we've got a special, we're calling it a bonus podcast today because you'll see that the topic is up in the air. Even we don't know the answers to 5 questions that we've got, and we'll go through that. However, before we get going, we always start our podcast with, what did you guys do this week? Anything exciting? Any stories you want to share?
I for where we're at, really, I'm in a little bit of wait and see. I don't have many cameras up. We're in just about into the first week in July. I'm just kind of waiting for my food plots to grow and put some cameras out probably towards the end of July. And then also starting to think about where are we going to put our new tree stands, right? So I don't know about you guys. I have 3 hunting blinds, but I also have 3 tree stands. I'm going to move 2 of them this year, so trying to figure out exactly where I'm going to move those.
Yeah, and I neglected to point out we've got a guest, not new to folks, our watchers, JB Hunter Extraordinaire. JB, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Anything going on with you this week?
No, basically, had a lot of rain over the last 4 days, and anxious to kind of get back to eastern Iowa to look at the food plots and see how they're doing. Able to put a lot of fertilizer on it, and anxious to see that growth. Tim mentioned about putting cameras up. I do have a couple out and starting to see some activity about between 1 and 2 in the morning. So my goal again is to be able to have establish food plots and be able to get some resident deer there instead of just pass-throughs.
Yeah, it's kind of the lull from a hunting standpoint. It's not only no hunting seasons, but it's kind of a lull too, work-wise, right? Because your crops are in, you're just praying for rain at the right time, and trying to control weeds and whatnot, right? So
yeah,
good. Well, I don't have anything really to share, but we did do some fishing this week. Yesterday actually, and caught some sunfish and had some luck. At least we caught some fish, and it was a beautiful day. Amazing, beautiful day.
Couldn't ask for better weather.
Good,
great time, great stories. So
yeah, it's going to be tough. We shared all the stories in the boat, so this is going to be a tough episode to share new ones, right? But
one of those things we talked about. I think it's fair to talk with our listeners. We talked about. We had a side discussion on. When we were deciding, hey, where we're going to put our new stands or where we were going to move them, and hey, how long's a stand? How long does it take for a stand to get burned out versus maybe even a hunting blind? And we could probably do our own podcast episode just on this. But what's your guys' just initial thoughts? I mean, how many times can you hunt a tree stand before you burn it out?
I've always led to believe through reading, like 2 times, and then they might start getting to you if you don't have really good access to those stands and be unnoticed. So try to keep the honey holes. So I'm saying 2 to 5 times, and they can be on you. A lot of it depends upon obviously the elements and high pressure, low pressures, and the wind direction, but they can be on you pretty quick.
I've got this one stand. It's down by my creek crossing. It's a little bit of a pinch point, and I tell you, I think one time I get one good hunt out of it, and they're on it. They know it's there.
Now, what do you contribute that to? You think it's access or wind or what?
Poor hunting skills might be one of them, but the other one might be it's tough to get in there. I've decided I don't hunt mornings anymore because when I go out at night, I'm constantly bumping something, and so I don't hunt mornings anymore. And I've had pretty good luck not doing that. And so I hunt evenings. And I think a lot of it is maybe since I'm hunting down in kind of a little bit of a lowland, I get some downward thermals. And I think those thermals, and again, I'm no expert on it, but I think that as those thermals start to come down in the evening, I think it's pretty easy to sense that there's something different.
I have experienced that. I've got I had to move a tree stand last year that's between 2 ridges in a valley, and it was just too close to one ridge, and even though the wind would be in my face, blowing in my favor, I think it would circle around and constantly getting busted. It was a great spot for it, but I just could not fight the wind. Couldn't get the wind right, even if it was in my favor. So I had to move it back towards the middle of the ridge to let the wind help me out here a little bit. But I'm a true believer in that for sure.
Yeah, we've all experienced that. I think I sent you some pictures last year of 3 huge scrapes, but it was a pinch point between 3 valleys coming together, and getting there undetected is extremely difficult. So that was a challenge, but ultimately I never had a shot while in that stand because it's difficult to get to.
Yeah, wind is everything. I mean, you just can't defeat it, right? But my answer to that question, Tim, would be it depends, and I think it really depends on exactly what you talked about, Joe. Access and then the wind. It's not uncommon for me to hunt out of the same stand multiple times, double-digit times in a season. We're limited in those tree stands, so which ones we can hunt, which ones we can't. But my access is not, as you guys know, it's not the greatest. I mean, it's not on paper, not what I would want, but it is. You got to hunt what you got, right? So, but I've always heard that the best hunt out of any tree stand is always the first couple times, right? Is that your guys' experience?
Yep, that's my
Pretty
experience.
consistent. Being Italian, I eat a lot of garlic, so during the hunting season, I try to avoid garlic. I think they can smell me coming, so I've got that against me already.
So that gets back to so when I start to put in my mock scrapes, or even if it's a live scrape, I have my stands usually not too far from where a scrape is or a scrape line is, and it's not beneath me to piss on a scrape. Do you guys piss on a scrape?
I can't say I haven't done it, we've gone to the Iowa Deer Classic and all those seminars and things like that. This is one of those topics everybody has a different opinion on. My opinion on it is that any kind of urine really breaks down to ammonia at some phase, right? So if it's human, if it's deer, if it's fox, if it's whatever, a day later it's broken down to ammonia. In fact, that's what I use for my mock scrapes is a mixture of ammonia, salt, and some fiber material to kind of hold it in place. And,
no garlic? You don't add any garlic?
I have not experimented. Maybe I'm missing out. I've not experimented
Try
with
it sometime.
But
second opinion's very good. So.
What's your take on the whole?
I've never done it. I've always concerned about scent and how do you interpret scent, and then even if I'm in a box blind, you try to hold it as long as you can, but just try to keep all the scents out.
So are you bring a bottle with you kind of guy? And if I got to pee,
Yeah, try to I bring a urine bottle, but every now and then might drop it, and then that just ruins everything anyhow. So make sure you have something that's stable.
Yeah, for those non-hunters out there listening to this, they're like, I don't think I want to get into hunting right now, right? So, but yeah, so boiling that all down, we'd love to hear from our listeners on those topics, right? Do you, It'd
be interesting, take a poll, see what people's thoughts are.
Yeah, do you pee in your scrapes?
and building on that, Tim, do you bring a bottle up in your tree stand? Do you just pee right out of your tree stand?
I've heard different, both sides of it. People do it, people don't, and I've just shy away from it.
Yeah.
I know I'm distracting and we're digressing here a little bit, but have you guys heard about? It's kind of like a rubbing post, but it's basically in the old days, people would tie up to like a fence post, and that's what they'd tie their horses up to.
Hitching post.
Yeah, hitching post. Thanks. And those, I've been reading some things about these hitching posts. That, hey, that's a preferred spot for deer to rub off all their velvet and sharpen their antlers on. Have you guys heard anything about that?
I've seen on videos. I tried it last year. I did something similar. I didn't put the crossbar, on it. I had 2 posts there, but I ended up using one to support a big branch. Mm-hmm. Didn't get any activities. I know the day that I was successful, the 2 bucks walked up to it. But prior to them doing any activity on it, I was able to be successful. But I'm going to look at that again this year and put that cross member by it. But I've heard success. I've seen on videos in regards to people showing evidence that they just destroy that cross beam on it.
There's a guy, I was up at a restaurant. Our community is known for hunting, and during the hunting season, the restaurants get flooded with hunters. And this is a guy from the East Coast. I've seen him before. We just hit up a conversation talking about how the season was going, and he said he put this hitching post up, and he goes, by far, it's the number one attractant for bucks to get pictures and see, pre-rut to see what you have on your property.
Yeah,
I'm going to try it this year. I've seen similar videos, hunting videos, and I have tried. I took a cedar tree, trimmed off all the branches, and then cut it into like a post, and then planted that in the ground. And took my chainsaw and marred it all up, and actually even put some scent on it and things like that. And I got to tell you, and I put cameras on it. I've had it for 3 or 4 years now, and I can't say that it's really drawn any deer. But so I'm going to take that to a next step and do the old rubbing hitching post from a standpoint.
I put mine right on the edge of the food plot, and a little kill plot with my clover. So see how it works out this year. Last year, limited activity.
But the topic of today, and we don't even know the answers to this. We've independently done this separately. But the challenge of it was, and I'm just going to read our challenge, is you bought 50 acres of deer hunting property, and you have 0 tools to prepare the acreage or the land, for your hunting. This acreage is yours for long term, so it's not just a seasonal thing. I mean, you're planning on having this the rest of your life, and you really want to develop it. Where our challenge is, what are the top 5 tools that if you could only have 5 tools to develop this land, what would be those top 5 tools, and in order? So we went a little bit further and set criteria for the land, which might help with the decision. It's 50 acres. It's about 95% wooded. It's flat to sloping. It's bordered by a river. You don't have any housing needs. There's already a cabin/trailer there. Electric, water, everything to hunt out of is established for you. and sleeping quarters. So you have 5 tools to pick, only 5 for this land. And an example would be is if you picked an axe, that would be, count as one of your choices as a tool. However, if you picked a ATV and a wagon, that would be 2. Or a tractor with a loader is 2. You certainly can pick those, but they're gonna, count against your 5 choices.
Okay.
Cool?
Yep.
And again, we haven't talked about this, right, guys? At all.
Nope.
So I thought what we could do is we'll do a round robin starting at number 5. And we'll start, Joe, with you as our guest. What's number 5? And then the next time with number 4, Tim, you'll go, and 3, and we'll kind of do that round robin. And let's just kind of talk through it. When we name your tool, try to give some logic and rationale behind it, or strategy behind it, and we'll see where this goes.
Okay.
Joe, number 5.
I put a cordless drill.
Cordless drill.
You ask, why is that, Joe? Good
Why-
question.
Why is that, Joe?
Well, my wife's really into projects now, and she has this garden, above ground garden, right? And this is like year 2 of it, and this thing continues to grow. So I figured that has to be a critical component. If I have the cordless drill, I can expand her garden when she wants and get those projects done at a faster rate, so I have more time for myself. So
You want to keep her occupied. That's for
exactly.
sure. If she wants to be occupied.
Exactly.
You want to enable that.
Got to keep her happy.
A happy wife is a happy life.
But no, even outside of that, just projects, the speed, flexibility. You can take it in the woods if you're, reassembling a deer stand, or just projects around the farm. Pretty
Yeah,
basic.
and with that, I mean, you're asking for a top 5 tools, and realistically, you got to have 20.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I really tried to make it limited to stretch, right? To really stretch, and maybe 3 is the right number. But how many? You could have hundreds, right? You should have hundreds, or could have hundreds. But all right, number 5, Tim.
So my number 5 was actually a chainsaw. So it's a wooded property. I'm going to need to clear out brush or limbs, etc., in order to either put up my stands, clear out edge if I want to create some more browse for my property. Like I said, putting up tree stands, or even clearing out timber for trails or for food plots. So chainsaw in my book's highly essential.
All right, I have chainsaw on my list too, but it's not number 5. I'm just kind of giving you a little heads up there.
Doesn't mean you're wrong.
Doesn't. I think it does, but my number 5, and you guys are, I'm gonna get waylaid here, is an ATV, UTV, ATV. Not getting any younger, and legs don't work like they used to, and in previous episodes, you've heard about the layout of southern Iowa's land with hills and slopes and valleys. And, if you are fortunate to harvest an animal, a deer specifically, I mean, those things are lifesavers.
So I have an ATV on my list, but it's not number 5.
Well, clearly you're wrong again.
Well, so that means you're gonna carry that chainsaw, your gas, and everything all over your property until you get your ATV.
If I had to.
Just telling you how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I
right?
get
Just,
it. I get it.
It's almost like that survival. I'm in a car wreck. I'm in a drift. Do I burn Do I burn a candle? Do I walk? What do I do? And I see a lot of similarities in here, and I think you just died because you put that one.
Well, I think you take the whole list in concept here.
Okay.
So you're just
All right.
looking at one. You're just looking at number, the
Feels
number
like
5.
the rules
So
might change just a little bit.
all right. Enough of that. I can't take any more. But all right, Tim, we're gonna start with you with number 4. Well, let's stay with the chainsaw since it's come up already. We all own chainsaws. Favorite brand so far, or we're not promoted by any chainsaw manufacturers or anything?
Certainly not yet.
Not yet, but what's your preference on a chainsaw?
Well, I used to have an Echo, and I would tell you, very reliable. It ran well. The chainsaw blades, though, I mean, the cost of ownership is high. So a chainsaw blade for an Echo is about $50, which is absurd for
That is crazy.
for a chainsaw blade. So, and how many blades do I have in those, Joel?
You have dozens. You have a lot of.
I have probably a dozen of these bastards.
And they're all dull.
They are all dull. So now I own a steel.
Yeah.
And I forget
where
it's a
at.
farm, and I forget what it is, the model. But I own a 20-inch steel, and that baby is awesome. Cost of ownership of operation is low. Chainsaw blade's about $25, and the blades. I think the blades are made out of a high-grade steel because the blades do seem to hold their edge longer than the Echo. I think I own 3 chainsaw blades of that, and I don't see any reason to change that.
Yeah, I also have a steel, and it's really the only chainsaw that I have, so I don't have anything to compare it to. But growing up, my brother swears by Husqvarna, and my dad had a Home Light, I think.
Yep.
And man, I don't, I wouldn't want to have anything else, to be honest with you. Joe, I know you've got some
I
experience.
started out with a Husqvarna, went over to steel, 3 pulls this spring, started right up. Reliable, well balanced, much more reliable than others that I've had, but it's a steel. And I didn't steal it, but it's a steel.
No pun intended.
But from that perspective, steel also provides a sharpener. I don't know if you bought one of those, but for the change, pretty simple tool. Gets the right direction, you line it up, and keeps it sharp. So don't necessarily have to take it anywhere or have them refurbished by a third party. So I'd highly recommend. Not pushing products here, but there is a chain sharpener that's I'd highly recommend.
Is this something you like bolt onto the end, Joe?
Nope, it's manual. It basically fits between each of the links or the blades themselves on the chain. It matches up. It gives you the right angle because of the alignment of it.
Uh-huh.
And basically, a couple scrapes one way, one direction. Do that through the chain. Do that maybe every big log that you cut, or every hour, depending upon frequency. But it's simple tool. I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, I mean the safest chainsaw blade is the sharpest one, right?
That's right.
People get hurt with dull blades, so a sharp chainsaw blade is saves
key.
a lot
It's
of work
critical.
for sure. Okay, again, not sponsored by Steel, but we're open. We're always open, right?
Right.
So, all right, Tim. Number 4,
I have a planter.
a planter.
Yep. So for me, I own a broadcast planter. Well, I mean, I technically own a 4-row planter as well, but broadcast planter would probably be what I would have in this instance. I'll get to the reason why on that, but for a planter, I could also broadcast fertilizer. I can broadcast seed. And if I'm only looking at my top 5 tools, particularly early on, I use it quite a bit. I can use it for seed. I can use it for salt for my drive. It just works really slick.
Another wrong answer. That's, but no, good. So you're specifically leaning towards like a broadcast spreader. Is that what you're thinking?
Yep.
From a cedar standpoint?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Number 4 for me is a disc, which probably leads into what's number 3 and 4 for me or down the road. But I think somehow, some way, shape, and form, you're going to want to build food plots on this property, and to do somehow you've got to break up the soil, right? So. Disc versus a cultivator or a tiller or a rake. We've all done that, right? We've raked and hoed and whatever trying to do it, and it's darn near impossible to do, right? So number 4 for me is a disc.
So I got to tell you, Joe, I think his top 5 and my top 5 are like inverters.
Yeah.
I mean,
And you're only 5 miles apart, so I don't know. Crazy. Yeah.
Joe,
I
number
see a
4
lot
for
of
you.
come on these.
4 for you.
I put a sprayer. Keys to weed control and get prepped for the plot. So I kind of put little notes here on my little phone, but maintaining the gravel on the farm, maintaining food plots, and also fence lines. Where I live, there's numerous rattlesnakes around, and I've got a short hair that runs around. Again, not pushing short hairs, but if anyone wants to give me one, I'll take another one. But from that perspective, just trying to keep the fence line maintained around the homestead, so they does become a habitat for rattlesnakes. But sprayer is key to start the year off with good solid food plots.
Yeah, I know pesticides and herbicides get a bad name sometimes, but man, if you own property,
they're
tough.
Key. If you don't use them, it's out of control. So.
It's tough, yeah, for sure. All right, that's 5 and 4, right? Yep. So I've got my next ones. Yeah, my next ones I've got to combine because it's a kind of a 2-for-1 concept. So I have at number 2 a tractor, and number 3 a loader on that tractor. And I got to tell you, I started my story with tractor on my property is I bought a 1951 Ferguson 30-horse tractor, clutch.
What the heck is a Ferguson?
Massey Ferguson.
Is that what it was?
Massey Ferguson. And between 49 and 52, I think, Ford and Ferguson they're basically the same tractors. You see them everywhere. They're still out there. That's how they're
gray
built,
and
like
red or
blue.
Gray and white. Or...
mine was so rusted I couldn't tell you what color it was.
Natural.
It was. But here's what I would tell you. It's gas engine. It always started. I mowed trees down with it. I ran into trees with it. I did just invaluable work with it. Disc obviously, since that's on my list. But that's what I started off with, and then a couple years later went into a hydrostatic John Deere and with a loader.
Is the Ferguson the one that? Sorry to interrupt. Is the Ferguson the one that got away from you?
Oh, it's many times. Yeah.
So tell me what you mean by it.
Well, on these back in the day, they're not like today's tractors where the PTO keeps spinning. You just let your foot off the pedal and it stops. This is a clutch. And you put the clutch on, and I didn't tell you about this, but if it had brakes, it had minimal amount of brakes. So basically just enough to stop you if you had 20 feet to stop. But these older tractors, you push the clutch, that doesn't mean the PTO stops. It means that the PTO is still going, and if you've got a mower behind it, it's got a lot of centrifugal force, and it continues to drive the tractor. So I was mowing one day and cutting a trail through the woods, and I needed to stop, and I was going downhill, and I pushed in the clutch, and it didn't stop. And the next thing I know, I'm halfway up the tree on up like this, and
it's an oh shit moment.
But it stopped. It stopped then, and no harm, no foul. They've got a nice big heavy real steel grill on them, not like plastic nowadays. But man, it took a beating and came back for more.
Hence, Midwest Hunting and Outdoors by Two Dumbasses.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't there another story with the deer?
There's another.
What's a deer sound like running through a tractor, a utility tractor, running through the timber unmanned? Didn't that get away from you too?
I think so
and hit
too.
A tree?
A deer, huh? You'll have to fill me in on that story.
Oh, I thought your John Deere had a similar experience.
Oh, I don't want to. Let's not talk about that. Just because that my wife wouldn't appreciate that. It was a little longer. It was a little longer story, and there was some domestic arguments involved with it. That really was the root cause. But
Sammy will not see this episode.
No. But I won't tell you the story. But the lesson I learned from that ordeal is when you get off your tractor and it's running, make sure the brake is on.
There you go.
If it's not running, keep it in gear. But so from this point forward,
safety first, people.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the way mine is, too, what you described. I've got an old 684 IH, and it does have brakes, but no, like, parking brakes. And so my brake is if I'm going to have to stop, I have to put my loader down. And if it's on a bigger hill, I got to put it down harder, But my PTO runs all the time. I mean, it never stops.
Yeah. And it was a great buy for me, starting off with land management not like I had unlimited resources from money standpoint. I think I paid $900 or $800 for this tractor. And I learned a lot about it. I bought the manual for it, and because there were some mechanical things, issues with it, and tried to fix all those.
It didn't kill you.
It did not kill me. And but another tractor story on that is it's gas, so it had a carburetor in it, and there were a couple times I hit such big bumps that the bumps caused the gas in the carburetor to spew out the top, and it would kill it. That's how big the bumps were. Now you can imagine this. It was a cast iron seat, no cushion, no power steering, no nothing, and you're hitting bumps like this, and oh man, just hammer you.
So would you recommend our listeners, if you're going to have a starter tractor, you get something like that, or what would be your?
Yeah, my if you can't afford it or it's not on your list, I think it's important to make a list of tools that you need in priority order and kind of work your way through the list. And when you get to a tractor, if you can't afford, a new hydrostatic tractor or a nicer, newer tractor, then get what you can get. Just be safe with it, and they will do a lot of work.
I will tell you, I do have a tractor story too, if it's okay to.
Sure.
So I had bought this 684. It's pretty heavy. It's a 70 horse, 50-year-old tractor. And I had been right. It's got a cab on it and stuff, and it's had a couple little retrofits. It's pretty nice. The tires on it were old. I would say 20-30% left of the tread, which I've just replaced. But anyway, one morning I'm feeling pretty proud of myself, and got this tractor. I'm feeling I have kind of made it. And anyway, I have a couple different ways to kind of get down into my property. I've got this one. It's kind of a long, winding road to get down to where the food plots are, or I could take this one little shortcut down by my pond, and it's got a little bit of a hill and stuff. It's not a big deal. I've taken it with my ATV all the time. Well, anyway, I said, I'm going to take a shortcut. Well, anyway, it was in the morning. Well, what's on the grass in the morning? Do
not stop.
So
Nature's lubricant.
I'm on the way, and I'm taking this. I'm not going very fast. I'm only going maybe 3 miles an hour, 4 miles an hour. And I start going down this hill, and all of a sudden my tractor starts to go sideways, and I'm like, oh shit! And I'm thinking I'm going to roll this tractor. I've only had this thing for like 2 months. I'm thinking I'm going to die on this thing. So I guess the key thing is be safe. I mean, these things, you can go wrong in a hurry.
Well, that's the other thing with the old 51 Ferguson. Didn't have any safety roll cage on it or anything like that. But the good thing is it's super low to the ground, so. Low center of gravity, but all the newer tractors have these roll bars and roll cages, which I think are the best thing on earth. And but slopes and hills with tractors are a death sentence. So be careful out there with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Joe. Let's go around to you, and because mine was kind of a 2-for-1, let's get your third and number 2.
Yeah, I think we aligned there. I put the utility tractor, and the mower on the back. To maintain the trails throughout the back end of the property. It's multi-purpose. Obviously for planting and tilling, disking up the food plots, maintaining the land itself, all purpose, right? That's why a utility tractor. Also, as y'all have been out to my land, I've got a pretty long lane from the road to the house, so it's critical that I had a reliable, something not too big but beefy enough to keep the snow maintained and off. And I can say that the tractor's been a saver in a lot of ways as far as where I live and getting to work. I think there was only one time where I was actually stranded, and that was on an icy day, and no matter what you do, you're not going to clear, and with the slopes I've got. So I did finally make it to work, though. I pulled out Barney, resurrected it. You guys know Barney's the old purple dinosaur, they call it, as far as my son's old Dodge that now it's a staging place for garbage going to the dump. But I ended up made it to work by just driving through the CRP and cut the fence at the end of the property on the west end. and drove through a culvert and made it to work a couple hours late. But I think that's commitment.
I know. Does your boss know that
I made sure
dedication?
He knew.
Yeah,
I made sure he knew about it. So, but utility tractor
with a mower.
with the motor.
Okay.
Yep.
Tim?
So my 2 and 3 are disc is number 2 and a sprayer is number 3. So you guys have already talked about those things, but again, if I'm going to need food plots for hunting, I'm going to need to be discing up those areas, spraying for weeds, spraying before you plant anything's pretty essential. You talked about fence rows. I mean, you're going to need a sprayer. And whether that sprayer goes on the back of a tractor, an ATV, UTV, or one you put on your back, I myself would not get a back sprayer. I just don't want the chemicals that close to my body. But that's just me.
Key tool.
Yep.
Definitely.
I have one. And I've never had a problem with it. Right? But I can see the value of definitely a sprayer. Key learning for me on sprayers this year. I've had this sprayer that goes in the back of my ATV, hook it up to the battery, very common type of sprayer. And I've done a really good job of keeping it clean. But then at the end of the season, I would put this neutralizer in it, which is a powder. You mix it with the water. It's supposed to dilute. And, Roundup, if you use a lot of Roundup, it gels, right, over time and plugs up everything. And it's a mess after that, right? But so I was being the good son and putting this neutralizer in. Well, the problem is this neutralizer didn't either dissolve or it dissolved and I didn't get it all out and then water evaporated and it hardened. Mm-hmm. So the first spraying this year, I hook it up, I run water through it, it's good. But about halfway through the field, my nozzles are all plugged up. Now I'm out there taking them off and cleaning them and putting them on, and I'd go 20 feet, plug up again. But the root cause of it was this neutralizer. So talked to the neighbor and he said, "Oh yeah, same thing happened to me." I learned 20 years ago not to use that stuff. I use just regular soap and water and run it through it, flush it really, really good. And
it's a good idea.
And so that's my my advice is that neutralizer is good, but it can cause some problems.
I just use water. I mean, I've never used soap. I mean,
flush it with water.
Yep, I'll flush it for quite a while, but I mean, in my gravel drive. But yeah, I've never.
It's a good consideration. I didn't think about that though. I just drained it like yourself, run water through it once it's empty a couple times, so I get some water, warm water, and flush it out that way. I have, as far as sprayer, the one I reference is, I'm on my second one now in 2 years, but one of them was self-induced going up the back 40, and one of my straps broke.
Oh.
And it took a tumble, so I tried to apply a certain special type of glue to reassemble this thing. It didn't last very long. So anyway, now it's just for parts.
Well,
sprayer's key.
Yeah,
be safe.
And I'm thinking about that big hill that you've got to get up to your food.
And it's not necessarily smooth in some areas.
Oh
so.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's stay on that sprayer. So I have a sprayer I bought from Northern Tool. Again, not a sponsor. The sprayer itself works really good. However, it has such a short tongue and the wheelbase is so small that, hey, if I'm going at any kind of speed, when I say any kind of speed, I'm talking 5 miles an hour, or if I'm going down a hill, I could have 20 gallons of water in it, or of fluid in it, and it will flip on its side. And you can't see it, per se, because it's got that short tongue.
Out of sight.
And I have a UTV, so the tailgate blocks it. I can't really tell what's going on. So what I'm going to do to rectify that is I'm going to actually completely dismantle it.
Mount it and put it on the back of your...
Yep, I'm going to set it up to put on the back of my UTV. I'm going to make booms, and I'm going to make so right now the booms are set up to where I'm going to say 10, 12 foot spray nozzles. Well, I'm going to put some extra line, and so it'll fold out, and I'm going to be like a 24-foot sprayer if that's what I want to do. Roll it out, put some little nozzles so that I can turn it on or off whatever I want to do, and it's going to be awesome.
That is the right way to go. So it's a little toe behind sprayer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, in looking at them, if you haven't owned one, it seems like a great idea, right?
Initially.
Yeah. Initially.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mine sits in the back of the dump. Level the tailgate and put it in there, and it fits right in there. And then what I did, because of the elevation I have to go, and I got basically a couple 2x4s and supported, and rather than just straps, I'd run one perpendicular coming out from the back of the bucket, and then I'd basically make a T-bar there, and then I'd crank down my straps, so going up or down the hill, it's stable. It's not going to shift. Yeah. So that seems to help.
Good. Okay, well, that brings us so quickly to number one, right? Number one, Joe, you're going to... so let me recap for you, Joe. Number 5 for you, Joe, is cordless drill. 4 is a sprayer. 3 is a mower. 2 is a tractor. And your number 1?
UTV.
UTV.
The mobile unit. It's my tool shop, right? Actually, when we built our house, 3-stall garage, the 3rd stall was strictly for the UTV, ATV, what have you, right? It's for that. So if I ever go to the shed, I take it. If I go to the mailbox, I take it. I didn't get this spelt by walking all over the place. And I swore, I said, after college and playing athletics, why walk when you can ride? And I stuck to it ever since. I think I went a little too excessive one way, but it'll get better.
It's a pendulum effect.
Need to get some T-shirts made of that right on the back.
Why walk when you can ride? But no, ATV. It's people mover because my triplets come home, share them around the land or visitors to farm. Putting in food plots, to putting in the sprayer in the back of it, to carrying tools, to putting wood. We all do it, right? It's the mobile unit. So that's my number 1.
So with that, Joe, I mean, what do you have for UTV?
I got a Polaris Crew, 2009, 6-person. Obviously the bucket on the back or the dump. I think it's a 700 or 800. But very reliable piece of equipment. Starts on a dime. Supported by a local vendor there and sales rep in my hometown, but very reliable.
So if you had to do all over again, would you buy that same model? Would you buy that same make?
I would say the same make. As far as using it, it is tight. It takes a while to turn things around. It's just not as mobile as a 2-seater would be. I would say, for the purpose that I need initially, it definitely works. I would foresee another acquisition in the future as far as buying something smaller, just for a 2-person with a dump in the back to make it more usable, especially when I go into my stand or what have you, something easier to get around. But, it's like a 4-point turnaround sometimes to go back the other way, and it gets you in some tight quarters. So
absolutely.
Yeah, they're lifesavers and workhorses, right? They're
that's our number 1 tool.
Well, that was on my list, just and you had it in the wrong position. So I had it at 5, and you had it at number 1. So, and Tim, we haven't heard from you, but maybe it's on your list too.
It's on my list.
Number 1.
Number 1.
Damn it.
UTV, ATV. Again, we credit Joel. Joel, you were saying not getting any younger. I mean, I'm telling you what, I take this thing everywhere. And I think it's a 3-year-old Can-Am Defender, and I have the 1000. I would tell you, I've had a few issues with it, but Can-Am, it was the first year that this model had come out. And so they gave me a 3-year warranty, bumper to bumper, and they fixed everything. So I've been very happy with the service that I had. But something you said, Joe, with regards to, I think it's really important, whatever you buy, that you have a service provider somewhat close by that can work on it, because you're going to put them through a lot of hard times, and something's going to happen. Like I just busted a tie rod here a couple weeks ago, so you're going to want to have that. But also, I wanted to throw out, to our listeners, as we think about, as you start to evaluate, gosh, there's so many choices, so many options on these UTVs, ATVs. How much power do I need? Let me tell you, I've got 1,300 miles on my UTV, and 1,100 of them are at 8 miles an hour. So, you see these specs to where, boy, this thing will do 70 miles an hour. It's like, well, that might all be really well, but when you get in these hills and stuff, if you're going that fast, you're tearing up your ground, and you're now creating an erosion problem for you. So, just food for thought.
Yeah, and I think it's specific to how you're going to use it and what you're going to use it for, right? But I think all three of us fit in that profile of farmland, hunting land, and speed's definitely not one of the big criteria when you get it. And it's not a matter of what I took away from it. It's not a matter of if it's going to break; it's when it's going to break, right? It will have problems, and the other thing with these, at least I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I mean, it's not like you can change the oil on them and the stuff yourself. You really have to take them in, and it's hard to get to some of the, just the serviceable maintenance fluids changes and things like that are just tough to get to.
It is,
yeah.
And as we start talking about our top 5 lists. Both you guys had tractors. Am I right in your top 5?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I did not. Right? So now, while I own a tractor, as we've discussed, the only reason I'm bringing this up is for our listeners is the UTV and ATV can do a lot of things. It can disc, it can spray, it can plant. I mean, it can do a lot of things. I suppose it could plow if you had for snow removal. It can... I suppose you could get a mower for it. I don't know if that would be optimal.
There's a pole behind mower you can do.
But if you only have so much financing and stuff, I think that's important criteria to think of. Hey, what can I get by with?
Yeah.
You get creative. I've rented a rototiller before, but that's my next purchase, right? But you build these tools as you go. You get creative too. I think once I planted my seed or broadcasted it, I took since I used to own a couple restaurants, I still had the shelving unit for it, so I just took a shelf off, threw on some couple logs, strapped them on, and pulled it behind my ATV in order to get the dirt leveled out and work. So people get creative. Don't have to buy it all at once.
Isn't that the truth? With regards to the more we're out here, I find I don't throw anything away. Right, so I found this other day, from a what's the name of the equipment? What do you call them? Not a trowel, a drag. I found one section of a little drag, and it's just like one little bar, not even a section, just one bar. And my wife goes, "Hey, I'm going to throw this away," and I go, don't throw that away just yet. There might be something I could use that for, and because what you find is you make do with things, just like what you were saying, and you're retrofitting things to make things work. And I was going to throw it away. My wife ended up keeping it. But anyway, to your point.
As soon as you throw it away, you need it.
Yep.
I've seen that so many times. As soon as you throw something away, a week later, I need that. It's like, gosh darn it, we got to go to the dump and get it.
A lot of functionality. All right, Tim, just to kind of recap then your top 5 list. So number 5 for Tim is a chainsaw, steel chainsaw. 4 is a planter, 3 is a sprayer, 2 is a disc, and UTV/ATV number 1.
Yep.
So I'm assuming then the disc is going to be like a little one you put behind a UTV and.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. For this scenario.
Yep, for this scenario. Yeah, if you had to get them in this order, right? Yep. So, cool. Well, my number 1, drum roll please here, right? I know everybody's been waiting for this, but a chainsaw. My wife always says, a man with a chainsaw can change the world. And I tell you what, you can do a lot. And when you need a chainsaw, you need a chainsaw, right? After every windstorm, trees fall down, you've got tree stands with trees fall into them, or hopefully not, the tree that you have your tree stand to, but Man, I just don't know what I would do without some type of chainsaw to.
He's just going to be skinnier than us because he's going to be
Exactly.
hauling it around because he wouldn't have an ATV yet.
Exactly.
I had to do it in order. If I had to, I could use the
log at a
tractor.
time.
I've got the
Walking it out of the timber, one log at a time.
Bring it on, bring it on.
We'll be zipping right by you. I was walking.
So we've got a lot of commonality. I think chainsaw hit a lot of ours. Tractors, ATV, UTV kind of
Some
hit
sort of
all of
powers.
ours. So that's our list. Let's maybe let's continue with this. What would be if you're given a couple more choices? What would be the next like 6 and 7 on your list after that?
I had a gas can.
That's pretty important.
Well, I mean, it's like if we're following the rules, right? I'm going to need some way to keep them all fueled up. I mean, might be a little nitpicky, but
It's a long drive to fill it up.
that's right.
Yeah,
Especially if you're walking.
Especially if you're walking. Especially if you're walking. Joe, what do you think? It's 6 or 7.
I would say a rototiller, which I mentioned. Haven't acquired that yet. So that'd be definitely that's probably my next focus purchase. After that, I'll fast forward. I'm in the deer season right before, and how do I, prune the trees in a better, efficient manner? And so we obviously know there's several items on the market for options for that, but try to improve that aspect of my hunting versus using the tools I currently have.
Yeah, that was going to be my number 6 was some type of pole saw or if that's to trim branches or
Exactly.
it's not even it is for hunting. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. But if you've got drive and there's usually trees along it, they're ultimately going to hang
Maintaining paths,
over
drives,
and
walkways. Exactly.
it's tough.
Exactly.
It's tough to do that safely with a chainsaw and if you don't have any kind of saw at all, it's brutal. But cool. Any other things, guys?
No, I mean, I just want to reiterate. I mean, there's no right or wrong, even though we were joshing back and forth. I think we had some lessons learned. But I think the 5, 6, we went a 7th, you're going to see a group of a lot of commonalities. I mean, we all knew we needed some sort of motorized system in order to do work on the farm, chainsaws. And so when you look at all that, even though we were slightly different order or maybe in slightly different context, we were all in the same camp.
Yeah, and I think the takeaway would be is this is not much different than when we first bought our land, what we did, if not on paper, at least mentally. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, what do I need in what order and what can I afford and what can't I afford and what can I make do with, with alternatives. So really encourage folks that get into that situation to make that list. I like to call it my capital list because a lot of these things aren't cheap, and you're not going to be able to get them right away. So, do I live without them for a period of time, and then when I get the money, I buy them, or can I make do with something else until the 1951 Ferguson, for example, till I can, save up for a John Deere tractor or those type of things.
What's interesting is we all lived in suburbia, if you will, and we all moved about into the rural America. Mm-hmm. And but before we were in suburbia, our asset purchases that we were buying was pretty limited. But then as soon as you buy a farm, you start to, I don't need this, but now I start to shift, and it's a whole new, different buying cycle. And be prepared for that.
Yeah.
The key is ask questions, right? If you're venturing off into purchasing land or whatever you do, it's like anything. Do your research. Talk to people that are already in that situation. Talk to potential future neighbors. Just do your research. That'll help out a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, Joe, you mentioned something that I think is wise is, you don't necessarily have to buy things all the time. Maybe a rental will get you by for a while, or maybe that's the answer to begin with because of the tool that you need and how often you use it and the money you spend on it, right?
Yep.
Buy used, borrow.
Exactly. And that helped me out, right? And then once you get that land turned and you just have established plots, and maybe you don't need it for that year for that area. You use a harrow or you do something different. But there's other options to reduce or eliminate the financial burden that comes with some of these investments. So be creative.
Yeah, these one or two time use tools that you'll never use again. I have tried to avoid those like the plague.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's been fun, guys. I don't know what your take on it is. It was fun for me, and enjoyed it a lot. Joe, again,
appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun. It's good sharing stories and reminiscing and comparing what we're going to do next and basically using each other as sounding boards as far as what approach you might suggest on option A, B, or C or whatever we're doing. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Joe. We'd love to have you
It
again.
was good.
Yeah. So, and then again, to our listeners, we would love to use the same scenario that we did to try to frame it in, but we'd love to hear your top 5 and feedback on how my list was 100% accurate and these guys were all wrong on that. So we would love to hear from our listeners on this topic or any other topic and questions. And like all episodes, we'll close with be safe, have fun, and get outdoors. Two Dumbasses. Thanks for listening or watching our show. We have some exciting topics and guests coming up.
We ask that you subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
We look forward to hearing your suggestions for topics,
Questions and comments. This is Two Dumbasses signing off. Until next time,
be safe,
have fun, and get
outdoors.
outdoors.